The clip that we just watched shows the synchronization of a digital camera with a lathe spindle. And this is to improve situational awareness of where the tool is relative to the part. Now, at least with my eyes, when the part is rotating fast, it's off-center, and there's interrupted cuts on the part, I can't see the details. Everything's just kind of blurry. And I thought if I could do stop motion of the part, then I could better position the tool relative to the part. I started this with a stroboscope, and this comes from experience setting timing on engines where you trigger a stroboscope with the ignition signal. And this accepts an external trigger, so this works, but it's terribly distracting. And the digital camera has an advantage of being able to actually improve the quality of the image and add information to the image. Certainly speed is an easy one, but imagine overlaying information about the desired part on the image. Maybe instead of putting DICOM on a part and scribing a line onto it, those lines, those cut up to this line, is marked on the image itself. Imagine also being able to take measurements in real time as the part is being cut. Now granted, the DRO is going to be more precise, but if there are gross errors, it would be possible to catch that in an image. Ideally, you trigger the camera using hardware, because there's tighter synchronization than between the spindle and the camera. So I started this with a rotary encoder on the spindle. You could use a 1 pulse per revolution as a signal as well, but with that full rotary encoder, you always know the position. So there's no uncertainty of where the spindle is in a rotation. For example, if the load starts to increase, the LinuxCNC controller and the Mesa hardware makes routing the home position from the quadrature encoder to a camera easy. It's simply attaching a signal between the home position of the quadrature encoder and a GPIO pin on the, in this case, a 7i76E card. And then that's attached to the camera. Unfortunately, LinuxCNC is still in control of routing of those signals, and LinuxCNC is reading the state information from the Mesa card at only 1 kilohertz. So there is a potential jitter of up to a millisecond or so per frame. Better is to make a copy of the encoder signals and implement the hardware trigger oneself. This could be done on a microcontroller, but in order to have those tight timings, it'll be necessary to have a pretty high clock signal. So instead of using a microcontroller, I used an FPGA. Now the signals from the quadrature encoder go through differential receiver and then into the FPGA, where the quadrature signals are decoded into a position, which is compared to an offset. And once the position exceeds the desired offset, which could be 0, then the camera is triggered. Now the offset or the phase difference is set by a second rotary encoder. This is identical to the one that's on the lathe. Adding this decoding of a second differential or quadrature encoder doesn't change the execution time at all on the FPGA, because it's just additional logic that executes concurrently, while on a microcontroller it would at least double the execution time. A global shutter camera is necessary. You can see the result of using a rolling shutter camera with the video from the stroboscope, with this rolling shutter effect of this band that's passing over the image. This is a Basler full frame camera. It's USB 3. You can do 30 frames per second, and it's fairly light sensitive. So the video that came from it with the FPGA driven trigger has an exposure time of 100 microseconds. To achieve that, I have to bump up the hardware gains quite a bit, and then the image is pretty noisy relatively. To get a nice clean image, about a 2 millisecond exposure is necessary, 2000 microsecond exposure is necessary, and but when you use those higher exposure times, because the spindle is rotating so quickly, you end up with quite a bit of blurring. So you want to have a really short exposure time and a camera which is light sensitive enough that a high intensity light source isn't necessary, high intensity like the stroboscope. Now, I am using a pretty bright light here, but I'm reflecting it off of the wall. It's not shining directly on. And beyond the intensity, the reason I'm using this light source is because it's the closest thing to a flicker-free light source that I have. This is the high-level block diagram of the FPGA design. The spindle encoder is attached to a differential receiver that's attached to the FPGA through 3 pins. Those represent the 3 signals from the encoder, A, B, and Z. Those feed into a quadrature decoder module that tracks position relative to the Z or home index pulse. The decoder module sends a position and a Z pulse to a camera trigger. A camera trigger is comparing current position of the decoder against an offset position in case the home position of the encoder is not aligned with the feature of the part that where you want the camera to focus. Once the encoder position exceeds the offset position, the camera is triggered. To control the offset, I first used the 2 buttons on the evaluation board as an increment and a decrement of an offset value. Later changed that to use another quadrature encoder, and the rotary encoder is a more natural interface for angular position than the 2 push buttons. Listed at the top of the VHDL file are the libraries that are in use by the module, followed by a description of the I/O of the module, including the direction, type, and size of each of the signals. This module implements one process which is sensitive to a clock. If on the rising edge of the clock the reset line is asserted, the internal variables are reset. However, under normal circumstances, the module is looking for the home signal from the encoder to be asserted. Once it sees that, it begins comparing the encoder's position to an angular offset. Once the encoder's position exceeds the offset, then it stops looking for or stops performing this comparison this time around and triggers the camera. This module is running at 1 megahertz. If a 1 microsecond trigger is not long enough for the camera, it can be held for a programmable amount of time. After full compilation, we can see how the chip has been laid out. This represents the FPGA's logic fabric with the I/O around the edge. The blue are the logic blocks. The green columns are dedicated multiplication units, and the white columns are dedicated DSPs or memory units. If we zoom into any of these logic blocks, we can see the 16 logic elements. We can look at the circuit that's implemented by each of these logic elements. It's composed of a combinatorial portion and a sequential portion. The combinatorial portion is a 4-input lookup table, and the sequential portion is a D flip-flop. There is carry in and carry out in the combinatorial part for implementing adders, and this looks so here carry out is being used, and here the carry in and carry out is being used, and there's 8, 9, 10, 14 logic elements that are being used, likely interconnected. So this is probably a 14-bit adder. We can look at fan out and fan in for all of them and see how they interconnect, how the logic elements interconnect, but also how the logic blocks connect to the I/O of the chip. It may be useful for improving propagation times to place constraints of where these logic elements and logic blocks are placed, maybe get them closer to a clock signal, maybe get them closer to I/O The chip planner shows the hardware implementation of the VHDL code at a very model-specific low level, and it can be even made more confusing because reuse of hardware. The RTL viewer shows a higher level view of how the code has been converted to hardware as organized by modules.